You said that you wanted a boxing champion.
Yeah, for sure.
You're okay with an MMA champion, but you wanted a boxing champion.
Boxing for sure. The money is
More money.
Yeah.
more money. Why not?
Would that be an outcome for him? No.
He's 3 more fights on the contract now.
Okay. So,
And I don't want to sign a new contract.
okay.
Personally.
Alright, so in my previous video, I briefly spoke about how it seems like the relationship between Tom Aspinall and Dana White is already falling apart. I mean, I wouldn't even say that it ever seemed like they had a good working relationship given how Tom was made to defend his interim title, but Dana's comments from the UFC 321 post-fight press conference have really stuck with me. He didn't seem sympathetic, he didn't even seem understanding of Tom being poked in the eye. In fact, I'd say that based on his reaction, Dana already seems like he doesn't want anything to do with Tom anymore. I can't say for sure as to why these guys are rapidly barreling towards openly feuding with one another, but I feel very confident in saying that a lot of Dana's resentment towards Tom is tied to his dad, Andy Aspinall, saying they're planning on going to boxing. Mind you, this is not the first, second, or even third time Dana's had a public beef with his heavyweight champion, because this really has become a recurring theme throughout UFC history, and yeah, in this video I'm going to be talking about all this and more.
Now, something you're pushing him towards now is a potential boxing super fight. You've said that you want to see him go into boxing and earn a big payday. How has Tom received that? Does Tom want to go into the boxing world and maybe fight a Tyson Fury, maybe fight a Deontay Wilder?
I don't know if he does, but I think if you get into that top percentage of the sport, the UFC do not pay anywhere near as much as the boxing does. And I know from being around Tom every day that when he spars good boxers, he spars good.
Now, after this past weekend's card, Tom has 2 fights left on his UFC contract, and based on the words of his dad, coach, and manager, Andy, it seems like they've already made up their mind to make the jump over to the world of boxing. If you're asking me, I think it's a good move for the exact same reasons that Andy says. If an MMA fighter can use their name and turn that into a career in boxing, then go for it. They're definitely gonna make more money. Like, if you're gonna be risking brain damage anyway, then might as well risk it for a significantly larger payout. I'm really not all that confident that Tom would be a championship level boxer. Frankly, I doubt he'd even be all that competitive against the elite heavyweights, but if his goal is money, then being able to beat Alexander Usyk or Tyson Fury is kind of irrelevant. Derek Chisora, who's a bit of a journeyman level boxer, made damn near $4 million to get his cheeks clapped by Tyson Fury, which is significantly more than Tom has made across 10 fights in the UFC.
I'd love him to have a very highly paid boxing match for the money.
Do I think it's completely reasonable for Andy to want his son to pursue a boxing career once their current contract is done? Absolutely. But do I also think it's dumb for him to publicly reveal their plans on 2 separate occasions? Absolutely. Don't get me wrong, I definitely admire Andy's honesty, especially when he says that the main reason for wanting to leave the UFC is because the company doesn't pay nearly as much as it should, but sometimes the best thing to say is nothing. This is one of those times when Andy really should have played his cards close to the chest, especially considering how vindictive and petty we all know Dana is by now. I've seen some people say that this is a negotiation tactic by the Aspinalls in order to get paid more by the UFC, but I don't know, man. I'm not sure if I agree with that. It certainly could be a play for more money, but if it really is one, I think it's going to end up backfiring in their faces. Dana does not respond well to fighters who air out dirty laundry to the media, and doing so is a one-way ticket to Grudgetown where he's the mayor. Look at what happened with Henry Cejudo. After he defended his bantamweight title against Dominic Cruz, he retired in the octagon, but then like half an hour later announced that he'd be willing to come back to the sport if the UFC paid him what he wanted. As a result, Dana immediately called him on his bluff and barely even acknowledged Cejudo teasing a return in the 2 years he was away from the sport. Ultimately, they came to an agreement, but then Henry lost to Aljo in his comeback fight, and since then he's been treated like an afterthought by the UFC. He's getting paid significantly less than other fighters who are way less decorated than him, and he's been used to prop up fighters that the UFC like more than him ever since. Given this is the Brown standard when it comes to a fighter ruining their own career, but I think the comparison I'm making is clear enough. When fighters try to use the media as leverage to get paid more, it never works out the way they want it to, and it almost always ends up with Dana making their life harder as revenge. So in the case of the Aspinalls, whether they're intentionally trying to hardball the UFC or they're just simply being open and honest with their plans, I think that what Andy did was a big mistake, and I do think it explains Dana's reaction at the press conference.
Were you surprised when he got announced as the heavyweight champion, the undisputed heavyweight champion, that maybe the UFC could have done a little bit better in terms of just announcing it on the back end of the card?
Yeah, I didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
But the UFC is the UFC. They do what they want. Not just for Tom, for John Jones. You know, John Jones has retired. We've got a new champion. I just think it could have been done a lot better.
It's responses like this that make me think that Andy is not doing a negotiation tactic for more pay, because he really has nothing to gain from criticizing how the UFC announced Tom being promoted to undisputed champ. It really seems like he's a guy that speaks his mind and doesn't know how to be anything other than transparent with his thoughts. I, as a fan, love that quality. However, even from the outside looking in, I can totally see why saying things like this can be an issue for someone as sensitive as Dana. Again, I appreciate the honesty, but I do think that they would benefit from treading a little bit more lightly. You might say that I'm encouraging the Aspinalls to be fake, and I can understand why you'd say that, but I'd like like to think that I simply want them to be smarter with what they say in front of the cameras, because now that Dana knows exactly what they're planning once Tom's contract is over, Dana and his team of gremlins can plan accordingly, which could end up being bad for the Aspenols. I should also mention that there are people saying that Dana's mad at Tom for saying that he'd rather vacate his title than fight his friend Ante Delija.
How would this go?
So the thing is, if I'd never won a title, I'd never touched gold before, we would have to fight, because that's my dream.
Yeah.
Well, now I've done it, I would be like, I'll vacate it and he can have his time.
Really? So if it came to it, you're just not fighting him?
I wouldn't fight him. No chance. No chance.
Damn. Fucking
No.
props.
That's my
really?
Yeah.
Dana's clearly not happy with Tom saying this, but I doubt that his attitude he put on at the press conference has anything to do with it. This really doesn't seem like something that Dana would hold a grudge over, seeing as there have been fighters who refuse to fight each other since the beginning of the UFC, even when it comes to title fights. Merab and Aljo have said that they'll never fight each other, even when they were both at 135. Cain Velasquez and Daniel Cormier publicly said they'd never fight, and when Ben Askren joined the UFC, both he and Tyron Woodley said they'd never face each other. They've gone through it enough to just deal with it. Like, some guys are just not going to fight each other. I really do think that Dana's piss poor vibe has to do with Tom and his dad voicing that they're unhappy with how much they're getting paid and already planning for fights outside the UFC. And if we're taking a look at history, almost all of his issues with his heavyweight champions have had to do with dogshit pay or them wanting to leave the promotion. Let's rewind all the way back to when Randy Couture was champion. When asked about his future with the UFC, Randy said that he wanted to fight Fedor, which immediately caused a rift in his relationship with Dana because Fedor was not in the UFC, and that would mean Randy would have to leave in order to fight him. Then Randy began to complain about being underpaid, and when he tried to leave to another promotion, Dana sued him to keep him in line and has held a grudge against Randy ever since.
Have you been treated the way you should be treated in this sport?
Well, by the UFC, by the promotion I fought for most of my career, I would have to say no.
Why?
Because it's personal with Dana. I've never.
Were you too big?
I think I was one of the only guys, or the first guy, to stand up, had representation and management that understood what ancillary rights were and all these things that they're sliding into these contracts, and we fought for that stuff, and they didn't like it. I was never one of the boys, never one that would just sign it all over and let them do whatever they wanted. I wanted to control my own destiny. I saw myself as a brand and fought hard for some of that stuff, and they didn't like that.
When Fabricio Verdum was champion, his relationship with Dana fell apart when he complained about fighter pay, supported the fighter union movement that was happening at the time, and called out the promotion for playing favorites. Dana likes to paint Verdum as someone who's violent and dangerous outside of the cage, but the truth is he's held a grudge against him for speaking out against the company.
Me and Verdum do not have a good relationship. At all. At all.
What about the incident in Australia?
Yeah, it's just it's just a continued. This is what this guy does. He almost fights Tony Ferguson at the media luncheon. There's a laundry list of me and Verdum.
When Stipe Miocic was champion, he was constantly criticizing the UFC for underpaying him and underpromoting him. Things got so bad that when he beat Francis Ngannou at UFC 220, he didn't even let Dana put the belt on him and had his coach do it instead. In fact, Stipe was so underpaid as a champion to the point where some of the guys he was defending his belt against were making more money than him.
Do you feel like you are, being treated like a big-time champion? Do you like the way that they're compensating you these days?
I definitely can be better. My last fight, my challenger made more money than me.
Wow. The Overeem fight?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that going into the fight or only found out about it afterwards?
After.
What was your reaction?
Terrible. Things definitely give you a change. Something's going to change. It's not really fair.
Of course, yeah, especially since you were the draw, the guy who sold out the arena.
And then, of course, more recently, there's still bad blood between Dana and Francis Ngannou, where Francis claimed that he was underpaid and disrespected. I'd argue that John Jones has a bit of a beef going on with Dana right now as well, seeing as Dana won't let him fight on the White House card. My point here being that Dana has a long history of not being able to make his heavyweight champions happy. For the last 20 years, he's more often than not found himself openly feuding with them, and the most recurring reason as to why is over pay disputes. And seeing as Dana has bad blood with at least half of the heavyweight champions throughout UFC history, I think it's a safe bet to say that when it comes to a guy like Tom who knows what he wants and speaks his mind, things are probably not going to end well this time around either. And look, I consider myself an objective thinker because yes, Dana's a cheapskate and is criminally underpaying his fighters, especially his champions, but the Aspenols aren't going about it the right way. If their end goal is to just ride out Tom's contract and then leave the UFC for good, then they should have just kept that quiet because they're only giving Dana more ammo to make their lives miserable. Because now that everybody knows their plan, Dana's probably going to hold out on giving Tom fights, he's going to give him unfavorable matchups, and he's probably going to try to ruin his reputation as much as as he can. This is the Dana playbook. If he can't have you, then he's going to do everything that he can to make others not want you. And unfortunately, the Aspinalls put themselves in this position because they're too damn honest for their own good. Anyways, that's the video for today. Definitely let me know your thoughts on Dana's new feud with Tom. Do you think it was smart for the Aspinalls to reveal their plans, and where do you think their relationship with the UFC goes from here? As always, if you like the video, then like the video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
There's nothing we can do about it, but this has highlighted at a high level in the sport that it's dangerous. If they want to do something about it, they should. If they care about people, they should. And it's back to everybody has opinions. Everybody needs money as well. It's about, you know, I don't have to say what I say or do what I do to report back to shareholders to make money for a company. I do this because it's a sport. I want to do it with my son. I want to spend time with my kids. The other people who are doing it to report back to shareholders at the highest level because it's part of a company.